Hi, my name is Lucy Chapman, and our presentation is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusivity. The person that I picked was Kimberly Crenshaw, and the association that I chose is National Center for Transgender Equality. Crenshaw is a pioneering scholar and wrote on Black feminist legal theory. She is 62 years old, and Crenshaw's work has been foundational in critical race theory and intersectionality, which is a term she coined to describe the double bind of simultaneous racial and gender prejudice. She also conducts workshops and training.
Intersectionality is just a metaphor for understanding the ways that multiple forms of inequality or disadvantage sometimes compound themselves, and they create obstacles that often are not understood within conventional ways of thinking about anti-racism or feminism or whatever social justice advocacy structures we have. Intersectionality isn't so much a grand theory, it's a prism for understanding certain kinds of problems. African American girls are 6 times more likely to be suspended than white girls. That's probably a race and a gender problem. It's not just a race problem, it's not just a gender problem. So I encourage people to think about how the convergence of race stereotypes or gender stereotypes might actually play out in the classroom, between teachers and students, between students and other students, between students and administrators, and commit themselves to understanding that as a way of intervening and providing equal educational opportunity for all students, regardless of their identities. Identity isn't simply a self-contained unit. It is a relationship between people in history, people in communities, people in institutions. So schools do a good job when they understand that and when they commit themselves to curricular development, to opportunities in the school for all students to understand the histories that have brought us to this particular moment. You can't change outcomes without understanding how they've come about. So independent schools can take the lead on that to be responsive to their student populations and to the communities out of which the students come.
Crenshaw authored the background paper on race and gender discrimination for the United Nations World Conference on Racism in 2001. She also worked on issues on gender inequality since 1996. A quote that I found was, "Women come from a whole range of backgrounds. If our visions of peace don't include these differences, then our peace will be partial." What has the Center of Transgender done? They advocate to change policies in society to increase understanding and acceptance of transgender people. It was founded in 2003 by 2 transgender activists who saw urgent need for policy change. Their vision: for this to happen, we must create equity, equal opportunity, safety, and health. Projects include Families for Transgender Equality. It's a network of families with trans youth and groups that support these families who all want to change policies in society to improve lives. The second project, Voices for Trans Equality. They empower transgender people and allies so that they can better advocate for transgender rights. The third one, VTE, allows community members to connect directly to NCTE. Why I chose this topic? I chose it because I have personal ties that play a big part of transgender and race inclusivity. Every time I go to the public bathroom, I get told I am in the wrong bathroom, and one time I got asked to leave by the manager at an arcade place. This topic has hit hard because I cannot even imagine what transgender and other gender types go through just to do everyday activities. Researching Kimberly Crenshaw and understanding what she does helps me realize that transgender inequality can happen more often.
Hi, My name is Dixie Howard, and the individual I decided to research was Dr. Ibram X. Kendi. The association is anti-racism, and I would like to begin by apologizing if I mispronounce names. Sometimes I'm not able to pronounce things correctly. Dr. Kendi is a National Book Award winner. He has 5 books that won the #1 New York Times bestselling author. He is also the founding director of the Boston University Center for Anti-Racist Research. This is Dr. Kendi. Dr. Kendi was born in 1982 to parents who came of age during the Black Power movement in New York City. They were activist Christians inspired by Black liberation theology. Dr. Kendi is a host of his new podcast called Be Anti-Racist with Ibram, a new podcast he's launching on June 9th with Pushkin Industries and iHeartMedia.
Being an anti-racist is not the same as being not racist.
What do you mean when you say an anti-racist?
The problem of racism is before us, threatening our very existence. How are we going to free humanity from racism?
Race is not just identity, but it is the structure of power.
I'm Dr. Ibram X. Kendi, and on Be Anti-Racist, my new action podcast from Pushkin Industries and iHeartMedia, I'll discuss specific policies and platforms we can rally around to build an equitable and just society for all people. Each week, I'll be joined by a special guest to discuss how different policies can dismantle different forms of racism.
And I really think there's something here where the way in which we engage in conversations with people is dictating their response.
Diversity is America's superpower, and yet we so often don't tap into it.
An anti-racist future depends on my actions, on your actions, and Be Anti-Racist will help us understand precisely how we can build it. Listen to Be Anti-Racist on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen.
In 2020, Time magazine named him one of the most 100 influential people in the world. He was awarded a 2021 MacArthur Fellowship, popularly known as the Genius Grant. In 2013, he changed his middle name from Henry to Exolani, meaning peace in Zulu, and surname from Rogers to Kendi when he wed Dr. Sadiqa Kendi, and pediatric emergency physician from Albany, Georgia. They chose their new name together and unveiled Kendi, meaning loved one in Meru, to their family and friends at their wedding. As I was speaking earlier about Dr. Kendi being an author, here are his top 4 books relating to anti-racism. The first one being How to Raise an Anti-Racist, How to Be an Anti-Racist, Be Anti-Racist, and Anti-Racist Baby. All of these you can find on his website next to books. Is he introducing prejudice? In my opinion, Dr. Kendi might be introducing prejudice. Whether on purpose or not, some of the statements he makes could be twisted in the wrong way, being said to a certain type of person. Such as him saying that not being racist is not enough in his podcast tease. I do understand that this is probably coming from a point of activism, but it could be taken as prejudice and add prejudice to an area that already has prejudice involved. Personally, I think this could do harm. My final point is I chose this topic because I wasn't informed on Dr. Kendi or his teachings. I think that Dr. Kendi as a whole has made a positive impact on society, and I think that his teaching on racism and the negative effects of it has a positive effect on our society. I think that our generation, past generations, and future generations all deserve to be informed of the negative effects of racism and to be treated the way that you should treat everyone, equally and justly. My sources include the biography of Dr. Kendi on his website and also the books linked on his website.
And my resources include law.columbia.edu, the TED Talk on TED.com of Kimberly Crenshaw, and the tranequality.org. This includes our presentation, and I would like to thank everyone for taking the time to watch it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's a wrap.